This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello. This is Fake the Nation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we celebrate the 100-day mark of the Trump administration. Only 1,360 days left to go. I'm your host, Negin Farsad. And fun fact, while there hasn't been any major legislation so far, which is normally what presidents focus on, in the first 100 days of the Trump administration, there have been over 200 active lawsuits against the Trump administration. That's an average of 2 lawsuits per day, and that is impressive. Today, we'll talk about that milestone and about the latest speechifying by a Democrat. We'll also discuss the ins and outs of the bed party and why the Ice Bucket Challenge is back. And finally, 20 years in YouTube history, what has it wrought? Today, I'm joined by the most fabulous panel. I'm so excited to bring these two people on. They're so delightful. First up, you've heard him on their show before. He's host of the new podcast, Hyphenación. It's from KQED. You should be immediately subscribing to this podcast. He's so great. I've worked with him in the audio world a million times. I cannot rave enough. It is the one and only Xorje Olivares. Hey, Xorje.
Hey, Negin. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God. And I am so excited to have on. Now, this person is the first time on their show, and I don't even know why it's the first time, because in my heart, she's a regular. She's been on many times, because she's such an excellent comedian who I've had the extreme pleasure of sharing stages with. You've seen her on The Tonight Show, on Netflix. She's one of Time Out's list of up-and-coming comedians. She is the incredible Kenice Mobley. Hey, Kenice.
Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here.
All right, well, now let us get into it with topic number 1. Culture, you guys. There is a new trend alert. Parents are throwing bed parties for their kids to celebrate college acceptances. Now, they basically trick out their bed with like new college paraphernalia, candy, and other spirited knickknacks. Now, my question is, this trend did not exist when I was going to college. Also, I was raised by immigrants, so there wasn't much congratulations literally at all. But is this a trend that you've heard of? And what was your college acceptance thing? How was that celebrated by your parents?
I'll say not only was it not a thing when I went to college, so I went to the University of Texas at Austin, but when they were dropping me off, my mom had a big old like, "Oh, my son, I'm going to miss you so much."
Crying, yeah.
Started crying like as I was moving towards my dorm room, and my dad just waved from the front seat of the car and said, "All right, see you later." And that was it, right? Like no emotion from dad, no sentimentality.
Totally.
So the idea of like throwing a extravagant party in this dorm room that I'm sharing with a person they don't know. Like,
wait, is it in the dorm room or is it like before they get in the dorm room?
I think it's in the dorm. Like they deck out the dorm room.
No, they deck out their bedroom because it's like the college acceptance letter.
Even that.
And that, I mean, that was like
maybe I got dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know that I got like my favorite treat or whatever. Like I got nothing. Like it was truly another day. I tried to make it a big deal by waving big packages in front of their faces or whatever. Just look at this, but they were like, okay, you know what I mean? It was like, it was truly nothing. Kenice, was there any tricking out of anything on your end?
Not a single thing. Also, when I saw that the topic was bed parties, I was expecting something much more fun than what this turned out to be. I was like, what? This isn't a bed party?
Kinky in the morning? Okay.
I was like, how dare you? This is wild. So I would
you're expecting like some sort of sequel to Baby Girl or something like that, like just something really like, spicy.
Lapping up milk.
Comes back.
Gen Z is like into sex now, but no, it's not at all. They're still into
It's the least sexy way of using the word bed.
Decorate your bed. And I think it is also way too premature. Like I got into several colleges. I chose one based on scholarship amount, and it wasn't a whole thing, but also so many of my friends like changed their minds, switched colleges. So to spend so much money on all of this stuff for, ooh, this is the college you're going to go to. It seems like something that was made up by an ad agency in conjunction with rich parents to do.
Well, and then you bring up an excellent point about about waiting to see financial aid and stuff like that. These, I think, tend to be families that don't need to wait and see what the financial aid is. So there you go. We saw, in some articles that we read about this, one woman spent $2,000 on her daughter's bed party, and she even said, "This is a quote." What did her daughter got accepted to the University of Miami, and her mom
she did all that for University of Miami?
The University of Miami. Okay.
I love it as people of color were just like, what? $2,000?
I know.
It's a fine school, but to spend $2,000 on a bed party, that's Oxford, that's Harvard.
I know. She literally said, this is the quote from this mom. She wrote, "This is a $90,000 college, and it's just a college acceptance. It's not a wedding. It's not a shower." She is herself disappointed in herself for spending that kind of money. Some parents are saying, well, by the way, this is a trend. I assumed that it was a trend that just started on TikTok, but I guess this is a trend that started just in the South at some point. Maybe this was I don't know if this has been happening for decades. I couldn't figure out when did this start. But
I know, as a Southerner, I'm wondering.
And then, of course,
fellow Southerner, I'm also like, stop embarrassing us.
I know, but also it sort of makes sense because there's a little bit more school pride in some of the schools that were featured in some of these articles. And not to say that my school didn't have pride, but it was more like. It was just not that kind of pride. I don't know where, you know what I mean? Cornell University alum are more like a one sweatshirt type of alum. You know what I mean? I barely came out of there with a t-shirt. And so it was, it's just not that it's just not the same. So but I feel like if you have a big sports school and there's a lot of rah-rah, for your school, then it's a different thing. And I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't want to shit on things because my immigrant parents never celebrated anything. But I don't know. Jorge, final thoughts on this?
Well, I could see it happening for my school. So UT Austin, everybody is rooting for the Longhorns, specifically in Texas. So I understand the appeal. But I also did not grow up in the promposal era where folks go all out just to ask somebody to prom, or even people will go all out, because my sister's a high school teacher in my hometown, just to ask people to be their boyfriend or girlfriend will also go all out and have essentially a flash mob style event.
Nice. Okay.
That kind of thing just wasn't of my era, wasn't of my time. And I just don't think I could support it. At least not $2,000 worth.
Yeah.
It also feels like what worry is that these things live for TikTok. And then they're not that, because I remember also telling my friends and having a big hug, and it's kind of all you really need. I mean, is an actual human encounter about it. And then my friends are like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud," or whatever, school teachers saying that, or, it's there's a simplicity is okay, it's okay. All right. Let's move on to another little trend in culture. We're actually recycling culture right now, as we tend to do, because the last couple of weeks has seen the return of the Ice Bucket Challenge. First, do you remember, and did you do the original Ice Bucket Challenge in those heady days of 2014? Did either of you do it?
No.
Whoa, 2014? It was that long ago?
That's how I know. I was like,
dang.
Oh, okay. So this is really this is a really now nostalgic moment. It's long enough. 11 years. We did it.
It was Obama level stuff happening.
Yes.
A different time. I remember it happening. I didn't remember it being that far ago. But I never did it. I couldn't be convinced. I couldn't do anything for the talk, even though it wasn't TikTok back then.
No, did you do it, Kenice?
Absolutely not. I care about the issues, obviously, so much so that I didn't do anything to support them in any way. But
what was? Do you remember the issue, Kenice?
I remember that the issue happened. And
do you remember what it was that they were trying to fundraise
I remember
for?
It was the letters A, L, and S, and I'm not 100% sure of what that stands for, but I support the fact that they, are finding solutions to that. That's great. Similarly, are they finding solutions to mental health by doing this? What is this achieving?
Okay, so let me answer that question because I thought this was interesting. The the last one was for ALS, which is a horrible disease, and I'm glad they brought some shed some light on it and raised some funds for it. This one is for Active Minds, a national nonprofit organization focused on mobilizing youth and young adults to transform mental health norms. Now, the money will be used to, quote, equip youth and young adults with the resources, training, and skills they need to advocate for lasting mental health change. And one of the things I felt when I saw this was that can I say something that's potentially controversial? I feel like as a society, we've done a pretty decent job of already like raising mental health awareness. Everyone actually uses mental health terms probably in ways that they don't even know what they're talking about. And maybe there should be mental health awareness of like, you should actually just talk to mental health professionals and let them do the diagnosing. And then you don't do so much self-diagnosing. That's more of the awareness I would love to drive out into the world, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Agreed. I wrote down because as a studious person, I take notes when I'm writing and stuff. So I wrote down. So
such a
what
good
is this
student. Such a good
actually
student.
doing? So we're dumping water, ice cold water on our heads.
Yes, we are.
But like for like, is this getting like if you could point to one child who was getting like a therapist or like prescriptions for mental health drugs, I'd be like, oh, okay, we're helping Seth who needs our help. But just the general idea that mental health exists, I don't feel like that's enough anymore.
I wonder if it's designed for the people who do polar plunges, like who go deep into the ocean when it's super cold and like, my body, my mental health, everything is just aligned now.
Right. Those are the people that we've needed to activate this whole time, specifically people who like polar plunges.
Just polar plunge people. But I hear what you're saying, Negin, about like, we've now entered this place in time where there's a lot of public therapizing where everybody just has the language. Like there's a meme with this like live, laugh, love of 2025 where everyone's just repeating and regurgitating the same sort of language to make you feel like a whole realized person. And sometimes you just need to leave that to the people who actually got the education to like support the words that are coming out of their mouths.
Yeah, I feel I agree. And it also, I mean, and it's interesting because which is not to say like, I by the way, probably before 2014, I couldn't summon the term ALS off the top of my head, right? Like now I can. And I think that campaign actually did a good in creating awareness of what is generally, I think, a pretty not common disease. And I think about like the pink ribbons for breast cancer awareness. Now that serves the purpose of like women actually have to do something every year for breast cancer awareness. They actually have to go get mammograms, right? And it is like a nice reminder to us ladies to like go fucking do that, you know? And by the way, like it's annoying, it's a hassle. And so like the fact that there every year there's like a thing that she's like, oh, okay, yes, you're right. Like it, I think is helpful. I'm not saying like awareness campaigns are all shit, but I do think the concreteness of like the breast cancer awareness doesn't feel this that at the same level of concreteness.
Do we think the creator of the Ice Bucket Challenge like serves on the board now at ALS? Like this awareness organization? Does that person get any sort of credit for how it's changed the discussion about this disease? I don't know.
I also wonder if like wouldn't it be funny, you know, like when you riff on you take like a melody or something from a song, like you can't do, you know, like there's been lawsuits about that. Will we be copywriting Ice Bucket challenges? You know what I mean? Is there not to look for litigatory opportunities, but here I am, folks. Sue everyone.
You are an American. That is part of the.
It's just it's built into my code. Yes, that's right. Yep. That's right. I can't help but litigate.
I saw that it was started in like South Carolina, and that makes me not trust it at all. That this new iteration of the Ice Bucket Trout. Yeah, South Carolina is a garbage state, and if this
Wait,
new
you're from there, is that
I'm
right?
from North Carolina, the better Carolina.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
okay,
Now
okay.
I see
I
where
was
this is
like,
coming
where
from.
is all
Yes.
this coming from? Where
South
is this?
Carolina is garbage, and I don't trust anything that students at college in South Carolina come up with, air quotes, come up with, steal at the Ice Bucket Challenge. I don't trust it at all.
And just to close up this segment, I would like to say on behalf of everyone involved in Fake the Nation, we do not subscribe to the statement South Carolina is garbage. We love our listeners in South Carolina.
Thank you for
All right.
being the few liberals that exist there. I'm so sorry because your life is terrible. Okay.
All right, folks, let's take a quick break so we can hear from our sponsor. And when we come back, we'll have some more chatting. Folks, as I mentioned last week, Fake the Nation and HeadGum are parting ways, but it is my goal to keep this show going, but I need your help to do that. If you've enjoyed Fake the Nation and want to see it continue to thrive, please consider going to patreon.com/Negin Farsad to become a patron of the show. For as little as $4 a month, you get bonuses of the show, and it ramps up with like a $5 tier and more bonuses, and higher tiers come with t-shirts and mugs and my book and even a customized pep talk video that you can have for yourself or send it to someone you love, and the videos from me. We're also about to integrate our bonuses into Spotify to make them easier to listen to, so I'll let you know when that feature is up and running. We basically want to keep the show going during this utterly turbulent time in our industry and this utterly turbulent time for American democracy, and we want to give you even more show, and we want to make it more fun. So please go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad, and thank you so much for the upswell of support. If we keep going at this pace, we can really strengthen Fake the Nation into the future. So thank you. And we are back, and we're ready for topic number 2. The 100-day mark of the presidency is upon us. I don't know if you guys celebrate with like the traditional turkey dinner or if you're more of like a cyanide family for this one, but I first wanted to kind of get some initial thoughts about these 100 days of this miserable march. What are your like sort of general thoughts? I can lay out some of the particular points of garbage that we might want to fixate on, but just before I do any of that, Jorge, feelings that you want to just share?
Yeah, it's been an interesting opportunity for me to be a public media radio employee and seeing just how we've needed to respond to the past 100 days, where there's been congressional testimony from folks representing public media and a lot of discussion of defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which helps public media get to the masses. So there's been a lot of conversation in our newsroom. I know different newsrooms around the country about what this means for journalism, what this means for covering the democratic process. And actually, I appreciate that you mentioned the new podcast that I'm hosting, Hyphenación, because we just talked to 2 formerly undocumented writers, especially because of this issue of citizenship, because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that's been addressed in these first 100 days. This, promise of deporting millions of undocumented people, this promise to end birthright citizenship, which is a constitutional protection, and now these stories of U.S. citizens being threatened if they are, I don't remember the language that the press secretary used, but essentially if like the bad hombres, but 2.0. So like there's been a lot of, I don't know, just so much heat around at least being a person of color during these first 100 days. And our listeners are feeling it. I know people in my community who I see on social media, they're feeling it. So I just feel like it's been a precarious time for people of color, and specifically people who are of an immigrant experience.
Yeah. Kenice, initial thoughts. What if your initial thought is like, disagree, Jorge?
Yeah, disagree. It's actually been great for me as a Black woman. I think it's great. No, it has been bad. It feels like in a cartoon when, say, the coyote who is chasing after the roadrunner runs off a cliff and is just kind of like dangling in midair, and you know he is about to fall. That's what it feels like.
Okay.
That was really descriptive. I loved
that.
that.
That was shorter, but like more powerful than I anticipated. Like, you know, and you ended it as in exactly that in the air feeling. Okay, so just to give you guys a sense of what has been done, they have slashed several agencies, including USAID, which will surely result in more pain and death in foreign countries of vulnerable populations. They've signed more than 140 executive orders. Doge has laid off at least 121,000 federal workers. They've rolled back the Paris Climate Accord. They withdrew from the World Health Organization. They created out of whole cloth the conditions for a possible recession with ridiculous tariff policies. They've alienated allies, ended DEI programs at the federal level, pardoned January 6 rioters. The list goes on. I think one of the more just absolutely heinous things that we saw from the last few days was that they deported a U.S. citizen who was also like 2 years old and has stage 4 cancer without her medications. And so that, like, as a mom, also just as a person, made me do a little minor weep in the corner. And so these are, you know, these are some of the things that I find really upsetting. Is there, one of the things though, is it the Trump brand, Trump as a president, his popularity has declined. He's what they call underwater, right? Which means more people disapprove of his work now than approve of his work. So is there any sign of hopefulness for you guys there, that like these 100 days kind of don't work for anybody?
I think I'm blanking on the name of the institution, but the nonprofit organization that Julian Castro now runs, that's Latino specific, they just came out with a poll that said the Latino support that Trump had for this past election is actually declining. And on our most recent episode that we recorded for Hyphenación with Paola Ramos, who's MSNBC journalist and wrote a book called Defectors about the rise of the Latino right wing, also saying that folks are just completely dissatisfied with the promise that was sold to them. So I can already see just within this particular demographic that folks aren't as happy with what they thought things were going to be. And I'll say, at least from somebody who's from the border, knowing that JD Vance has visited the border more times than I have this year, which my mom and dad would be very upset with, but like how even the conversation surrounding the border, the conversation surrounding identity, like a lot of that has happened so quickly in these past 100 days that I feel like I'm surprised we're not beyond 100 days. Like it just seems like, especially everything that you listed out, that it's all happened in such quick succession that trying to keep up with it, even like there were certain things that I wasn't fully aware of because we've been in full production for the show. So yeah, it's a bit whiplashy. I
You
can
know,
definitely sense.
one of the things I wanted to also point out in terms of, so if one of the, you know, key issues for the Trump administration was immigration, they have so far, it looks like, though the exact figures are hard to come by, it looks like they deported over 65,000 people in the first 100 days. Now that number might sound a lot for you, but what happened actually is but it's actually, interestingly, when you look at Obama's record, he deported 3 million people in his 2 terms. He's actually the person who has deported the most people of any president.
They used to call him the deporter in chief.
They used to call him the deporter in chief.
Regularly.
And I feel like this is something that like super duper nerdy base liberals who read a lot of news remember about Obama, but the average person in the population doesn't. I've like said this thing to a lot of people. You know that Obama deported more people than Trump ever did in his first term. And Trump is not even on track to deport as many people as Obama did. Now, the reason Obama didn't get in trouble as much, the reason he didn't get news about it, all that stuff, is because it was done in a more humane fashion by and large. Again, like, I don't know all the cases of blah, blah, blah. I'm sure people will come at me. But like, generally, if you want to do all of this stuff, just do it where you're not like, you can do it in a way that upholds due process, and it doesn't affect 2-year-old girls with cancer, and it doesn't affect Maryland dads who have like no record that are being sent to an El Salvadoran prison, right? Like, it's the cruelty that's
Yes.
like, it's so crazy to me, because I'm like, man, you could have fucking come in and be the most popular president ever, even though you suck in so many fucking ways. But like, in terms of public opinion, if you just were like, yeah, I cleaned up the border and and I did it humanely, you would have just won. You know what I mean? At the game of presidency. But but the
Game
fact
of
that you're
presidency.
making it so fucking cruel is
Unnecessarily, it doesn't help you
unnecessary.
do the job to do this cruel.
It
I mean, to your
doesn't.
point about the distinction between Obama and Trump, I think folks remember, at least in the first Trump administration, the visualization of the kids in cages
Yes,
and
family
the family
separation.
separation. And I'm blanking on her name, Kristen Nielsen, I believe, the who was Homeland Security Secretary for a moment during the first administration. Like, there always being this language of, this is meant to be, like, the families knew they were going to get separated. So I think because there's a lot of remembrance for what happened the first administration, that folks are already understanding what the second one's how it's going to play out.
That's right. And it's funny because what, one of the other like things that happened in the last week is that Judge Hannah Dugan of Wisconsin is actually facing federal charges because she heard while she was on the bench there were ICE officials in the hallway, and she was like talking to an undocumented immigrant, whatever. So she like knew that they might like take him to El Salvador or whatever. So she sort of was just like, go to the basement. And she's now, she was like, and the whole like, get the cops, and they get her, and it's on, you know what I mean? They made a big display out of her. And this is the point, is they want to make it look so strong manny. And I don't know, and it's interesting because it's just like, if we're talking about a bunch of evangelical Christians is your base, or if we're I don't know that anyone feels that that's what America's about, those
Right?
displays of aggression.
It seems like such a position of weakness. Like when you do
Yeah.
these, to do something that is so like demonstrating, I'm a strong man, look at us, we're doing the tough thing, da 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 da. It does come off as like super insecure, super weak. Like it's kind of
Yes.
like, it's embarrassing for lots of reasons, in that I'm like against hurting
Yeah.
children and separating families and the policies. But it also comes off as like cringe, because it's like, wow, that's the worst thing you could, like, that makes you seem so weak and so
Yeah.
insecure in your position that you can't have anyone question it. Like, i I am embarrassed.
And I actually think, well, this comes to my last question on the 100 days, which is your predictions, because I think the administration is learning a lot about what is. I don't know that they thought that they would just be so wildly unpopular. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I don't know that they thought. So, for example, China is not coming to the table on tariffs because China is like, yeah, go fuck yourselves. You know what I mean? Oh, do you want your shelves to be empty? All right, that's fine with us. That'll be your problem. That, like, that sounds like a you problem, Trump, and I don't got to do anything, right? And so I'm curious, what do you predict with all of these things in place, the tariffs and the deportations and the cruel deportations? How much further do you think they go? What's your give me some predictions on the next 100 days.
I think the next 100 days are going to be filled with incredibly positive spins and positive stories, because the White House is having the way they've lived it, like MAGA influenced podcasters, content creators, like they've created a separate opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to disseminate whatever information they want to get out to the public, to show that they're doing the job that they promised to do.
Yeah.
So I think because they are feeding that particular echo chamber and saying, whatever the approval ratings are, I think, to borrow language that Trump used during the 2020 election, saying that, oh, those numbers are fake, the poll numbers aren't, they interviewed the wrong people for that. I think it's just going to continue to play into what the administration has been hoping, which is that folks will see all of the net positive, or what they are describing as net positive. And I think there's going to be an opportunity for Trump to just continue to label everything as a win, whether that's seemingly true or not, for folks to debate. But I think the next 100 days, there's probably going to be far more. Yeah, I think the smoke in the mirrors that most administrations hide behind, but I think this one in particular will be able to really use it to its advantage.
Kenice, predictions.
Okay. So I hear the smoke and mirrors thing. I do think it is like someone going down a cyclone to the bottom, and you're getting rid of everyone who disagrees with you, and you're just continuing to go down into a more concentrated funnel of evil. And I think that they ideally will crash and burn, hoisted by their own petard. But that's my dream. I mean, it means that we will have to suffer the consequences and have like no food and really bad, just a bad environment. But it does feel like they are going into this cycle of death.
Okay, so my prediction is I think they're going to just come up with some ways to say that they won a bunch of things by just rolling everything back. Oh, because I already said, oh, we got Xi Jinping to come to the table, but that was totally not true because he never did. So I think they'll just keep doing stuff like that and say, oh, we got Xi Jinping to come to the table, and so we're rolling back the China tariff. So don't worry, your shelves at Target will have stuff on them. And then things will be, and everything's will be cheaper. They'll just lie and say stuff.
It's like the ping ponging that happened with Canada and Mexico, where it's like, well, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, responded one way, and Trump said, "Oh, JK," and then just back and forth.
Exactly. I think it'll just be successes. And then maybe some European leader will go in there and just be like, oh, he did a great thing. They'll just throw him a bone and make some sort of minor positive statement just to assuage him. And I think a lot of the tariff stuff will be rolled back. That's just my prediction.
But do you think he's going to be Pope in these next 100 days?
I know. It's like when the conclave smoke is shit colored, then it's Trump becomes Pope.
How did this happen? How did the American president become the leader of 1 billion Catholics?
Well, just so in the middle of all this 100-day stuff, Governor Pritzker of Illinois came out with a fun thing, and then he went to New Hampshire. He gave a speech, and I thought it was like one of those speeches again. I feel like what's happening, we're seeing every other week, a Democrat is doing a thing, whether it's Chris Van Hollen going to El Salvador, or whether it's Cory Booker, speaking for 27 hours, or whether it's AOC and Bernie doing a tour, or whether it's Ro Khanna doing his assemblies. There's a Democrat doing a thing, and I kind of am enjoying it. And so Governor Pritzker said a bunch of things, but one of the things he said, I'll just quote from him. He said, "We must shed the outdated poll-tested rhetoric and long-standing decorum that has clouded our better instincts. It's time to engage in a widespread fight everywhere and all at once." So are you guys ready for his brand of mobilization?
I think folks are still trying to figure out how to approach Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high.
Oh,
and I think I feel like that's changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a particular corner of the political community that thinks that that's the approach, that they should write a strongly worded letter. I think Chuck Schumer was on MSNBC or one of the cable news channels, and they asked him about how he was going to respond to the latest thing that Trump had done. And he said, well, we sent him a letter, and we think he's going to read this letter.
That'll stop the tanks. Yeah, what?
And so I understood that folks are a little upset with this notion that letter writing campaigns are not going to do the thing that their constituents have sent them to Congress to do. But I do think that I'm also a little confused with motivations. After Gavin Newsom came out with this podcast and more folks are coming out, there's a somewhat like presidential campaign style video of AOC going on these different not campaign stops, but like these different stops. And it seems like this presidential industrial complex is beginning again. And so I'm just curious, like, who's doing it for 2028?
And right,
Who's
which feels like maybe Pritzker's doing it for 2028, to be honest. Yeah.
because he was one of the number one people, I think it was like of the top 5 for potential
VP.
VP candidates for Kamala.
Yep.
So like, I think there's some underlying thing here that they've got presidential ambitions, know that if they get to the base now, this is going to be the appropriate way to do so. But I think that juxtaposition makes sense. You have the folks who are saying that you should be like AOC, you should be like Bernie, you should be on the ground, you should be holding these rallies, you should be mobilizing this particular part of your base. And then others who say, you guys don't do that. No, we can't steep to, the level of the other person. And I think there's just some dissonance there that's really hard to reconcile.
Well, Kenice, I wanted to run another quote by you from this speech, which I thought was interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. He said, they must feel in their bones, that's Republicans, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors. He's basically saying that they should know that we're going to punish them when they're out of power. Whatever you do now, it will have a response when you're out of power. What do you think of that level of discourse?
I think that is a step. It is a step above, we will write a strongly worded letter. But yeah. I don't think saying that we will relegate you to the halls of tyrants implies that these people have shame or think about the future in that way. Some of these people are just going after, I want now. I want the thing. I will burn my political capital. I will ruin my legacy that I've built up over decades to get something right now. So I don't know if that is going to be fully effective. Again, I think it is a start, and we should be moving in that direction from do nothing, but I don't think it's enough.
Or that like they're banking on the fact that Democrats tend to be like, look, guys, let's just forgive and move on.
Yeah.
Because that's the like simpler way to do things. And we just need to do this other legislation that's actually in the interest of the people, blah, blah, blah. So like, they're like knowing that Democrats usually do that. Let's just not worry about how much criminality we're engaged in right now. But like, if they're getting a message that like, by the way, the second you're out of power, get ready for the subpoenas. I don't know.
I think that's better.
It's a different message. Yeah.
But then they will, I think they are showing that they will do anything to stay in power, regardless of its morality or not. So they are not necessarily thinking about this time when they will be out of power. That's my concern.
Right. No, true. All right, folks, I'm curious to know what you think. Are you into this Pritzker energy? By the way, of the people the energies that have come forth thus far, which is your Chris Van Hollen, your Cory Booker, your Pritzker, your AOC, your Bernie, who are you handing the torch to yourselves? I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. All right, let us move on to topic number 3. You guys, the first video uploaded to YouTube was 20 years ago. And it featured the co-founder of YouTube at the San Diego Zoo looking at elephants. And he basically said, I'm here at the zoo, blah, blah, blah. And he said, quote, the cool thing about these guys, as in the elephants, is they have really, really, really long trunks. And that video was 19 seconds long. And what followed in the intervening years has been a mishmash of Charlie bit my finger, Honey Badger don't care, Nazi propaganda, Miss Rachel videos, all in one weird, sometimes dangerous place. The average person now spends about 50 minutes a day watching the content that comes out of YouTube. So I guess knowing that this is the 20th anniversary of YouTube, what is YouTube like meant for the two of you? Like, how does it play into your lives? Has it had a different role in your lives over the years? And I know you guys are each just like 25.
Yeah, I'm so young. I'm like,
just had my bed party to go to the University of Texas at Austin. So I don't know, Negin. I don't know this dating. I'll say twofold. So the personal and the professional. So the professional right now is this Hyphenación show that I'm hosting is a video podcast because a lot of research has shown that YouTube is the number one place people are going to for podcast listening, and trying to figure out, like, we're pivoting to video, just to borrow language from the media from a few years ago. But the truth is, if you build it, they will come. So we are building a video podcast, hoping that folks will come. And I think that has been interesting because we recognize that billions of videos get uploaded periodically on YouTube. So there's clearly a lot of competition because it is seen as the new television. Most folks either have YouTube TV or are going to YouTube for regular programming. And this is where it gets to the personal, because most of what I watch is now on YouTube. And I'll admit that a lot of it is
okay. Now we're getting
stuff.
into it. Mm-hmm.
Like, I will rewatch the same video 25 times. It's like, sure, Mr. Mojo or Miss Mojo, show me the top 20 moments of Golden Girls that I've already seen 5 times. Or I'll watch this RuPaul's Drag Race lip sync. I think it's the comfort more so than the I go to for regular things. So I'll watch like Aaliyah's Rock the Boat video 20 times today if I want to. And I love that YouTube exists to show me that video. I think it's for the rabbit hole brain that I have. Like, oh, I forgot about Amy Poehler and Tina Fey's SNL, Sarah Palin, Hillary Clinton moment. Let me look that up. And it's just, I don't know. It's nostalgia, but it's also a way for me to remember things that brought me joy back in the day.
So interesting.
Kenice, where are you at with YouTube?
So YouTube in the 2008 to 2012 era, I was watching Charlie Bit My Finger and all those things, and I was getting some pleasure out of it. Occasionally I would put on YouTube when I didn't have Spotify connected to a speaker and I wanted to just play music videos or something. Now, as a person whose content is being put on YouTube, so Don't Tell will put out a set of mine, I see it as, honestly, a cesspool of some of the worst people I've ever seen in my life. The comments are insane. I just genuinely am concerned about the future of humanity, that so many people spend so much time on this thing. And it
Keyboard
does
courage.
make me worry. It makes me worry also how gendered it is, because it's the women I know are not spending hours upon hours every day watching YouTube, nor are they commenting on YouTube. And so it has become this kind of in the way that I used to think about Reddit, where it was yes, I could go there for information, but it's toxic and masculine. That's kind of how I feel about YouTube.
Yeah, what's interesting is I read a few articles about the anniversary of YouTube, and it didn't talk about the gendered aspect of it in the pieces that I read.
That is fascinating.
And it is something that I want to specifically look up, as the gender breakdown, because just the microcosm of my household. My husband is on YouTube all the time. He's also gotten into YouTube Shorts, which and in general, I hate all of it, so I don't do anything, but, and by the way, this is an excellent time to remind listeners that Fake the Nation is now on YouTube.
Yay!
And then you should subscribe to Negin and Farsad on YouTube. Yeah. But because I think, because I have so many conflicted feelings. Okay, I'm not a huge consumer. But looking at how my husband uses it, it's he does go after original content from creators like me. He likes to watch his podcasts. I mean, and I'll say Fake the Nation is the kind of audience that does not watch their podcast by and large. So the followers that we're getting on YouTube are kind of new, they're the watch your podcast people, and I'm more of a listen to your podcast people. And so there's aspects of it that I don't totally get, right, the appeal. And I do think when my stand-up has been posted, it is a lot of suck my dick Negin Farsad commentary. Not a lot, but there's you know what I mean, there's a healthy proportion of that. And I'm a comedian. It's fine if you want to tell me to suck your dick and get out your aggressions that way. I get it. I wish you wouldn't need that, but I don't understand why the commentary is so much more aggressive. on YouTube, and then it makes me wonder what is YouTube doing, like at an institutional level, what are they not doing that they should be doing? You know what I mean? To maybe support some of the ladies
Yeah.
who aren't as accepting as I am of people telling them to suck their dicks. You know what I mean?
But how many times do we think that that's actually a real person? Because I feel like I hate that
I don't
now.
know.
Don't know
That's right.
what's a bot, what is an actual human who's ascribed to this profile picture that's now
Yes.
with their subscriber page. So like, I think that's the thing that's killer is not only has it been 20 years, but it's been 20 years of evolution on how folks use social media and use the internet. And so, along with this keyboard courage, it is I'm just going to post the same comment on 25 videos I see because I'm bored today. And like, what does that do? Because we're seeing now with our show, like the more comments something gets, whether they're valid or not, that feeds the algorithm. That means that that video gets shown on more people's pages, and then like so depending on where those comments are going, that's changing what people are seeing. And the other thing is like YouTube is owned by Google. Google understands how to place things in front of you if it really wants to. So
Yeah.
what is YouTube placing in front of us? And is it, Golden Girls and Drag Race clips for me? And if so, it's not allowing me to see other parts of the world. So I think that's the thing that I don't like about YouTube and most other of these sites is my whole life has now become a For You page.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to look for something different is
Yeah.
just a little harder. And that's not as fun as it was when we first started, when the algorithm didn't even become part of our lexicon.
When Charlie was biting your finger.
Yes.
Let me close on this question, which is that YouTube, of course, is now owned by Google, and its revenue last year was estimated at $54.2 billion, which means it's actually the second largest media company after Disney.
Oh, wow.
It eclipses the streamers, it does all that, right? So I wonder, do you feel like where does is it a net benefit or a net loss? And I'm talking to three of us are people that like write and care about quality and entertainment that is craft based. I'm leading so hard right now.
You are. I love it. I love it.
But is it a net loss or a net benefit for this kind of high quality, beautifully produced, like rigorously made film and video?
No.
Kenice?
No,
it is not a loss.
Let's just say I'm agreeing with the framing of the question that
Okay.
is negative because we are devaluing. Like it's saying that it's putting it on the same plane as a Netflix, as a Disney Plus, but those people have a standards and practices department. Those people, even though it isn't great, have some like basic fact checking, have some basic responsibility that they feel. Whereas YouTube seems not to have that at all. So the people that it cycles for me, like you talked about the Golden Girls recap videos that you see, I type in something like top 20 pop hits of right now because I don't know what they are. And it will lead me eventually to some Andrew Tate like dude talking to me about how women are bad. And I think that is a net negative for society.
I think it's like a catch-22, right? The democratization of media, where now anybody can pick up their phone, literally right this second, either create a YouTube short, record themselves talking about, again, Golden Girls, because I just want to say Golden Girls 25 times in this podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, clearly.
And like they can upload that video into YouTube, and who knows, right? People might like it, people might not. And I think there's something fun about just allowing other folks to have what we've had the chance to enjoy as media people, as creatives. The downside is because the three of us have put a lot of work into what we're doing, we are now somehow competing against folks who might make one video and are now, a CoverGirl spokesperson or like a Maybelline spokesperson.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So I think because I can't think of it outside of my creator brain, it's hard to see us literally, as I said, competing against billions of other people who are just trying to put themselves out there.
And it's interesting because, I mean, Kenice is well aware of this phenomenon, but like, especially for a while, there was this thing that was going on where like YouTubers who had a huge following would call themselves comedians. And I know, Kenice is making like the most anguished face. And those people, they could make cute little videos, right?
Yep.
With a lot of jump cuts and like low production quality or whatever. And they might just be sort of like amusing in some way. But that doesn't mean that they can do stand-up comedy, right?
Not at
Stand-up
all.
comedy is something that is a miserable process. It's like takes forever. It's like
an
there's so
art.
much failure. It's very labor intensive. Like, you know
Yes.
what I mean? It's not at all that. So what was happening, and I mean what still sort of happens is that like they would get booked into like a venue, a comedy club, let's say. They would not have the chops to perform live in front of an audience because again, it's so hard. And then, they would bring a huge audience, and then they would need a bunch of like openers and fillers and stuff like that to make it seem like a real show. And that's something that I feel like has been, that to me is a negative. I mean, some of these people are nice and they just didn't know that they weren't ready for a real audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is let's bring back gatekeepers. Let's bring back people waiting in line. Let's bring back someone in control who says, no, you never get anything. You won't be successful. I'm for it.
I think let's bring back the gatekeeper known as putting in time. That to me is the gatekeeper. It's not like I don't wish for there to be a bunch of people saying you're not white enough, you're not cute enough, you're not skinny enough to be on TV. I do wish that there's something out there that suggests that you need to put in time to develop skill.
Yes.
You know, we don't have comedy school, and I wish in some ways that we did, you know what I mean? But we sort of need an informal comedy school that we graduate from.
Yes.
And that I feel is like what YouTube is letting people bypass. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you celebrating YouTube's 20th anniversary? Be sure to definitely miss that video I talked about that was 19 seconds about the guy at the zoo. Who cares? Okay. But he was also the founder of YouTube. He's a billionaire. It doesn't matter. All right, folks. That, my friends, is the end of the show. What a delightful chat I had with the two of you. Oh my God, I could have that every day. And what I want was for the people of Make the Nation to be able to follow you and everything that you do. Kenice, where do they do that?
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram because it feels less bad than the other social media. So I'm still on Instagram, but it's the only one I'm really active on. And I could say it's for political reasons, but it's also laziness reasons. So follow me at Kenice Mobley. That's KENICE MOBLEY to get updates on what it is that I am working on. Also, I do a lot of work with the Yes and Laughter Lab, which is a wonderful competitive creative incubator that allows people whose stories don't always get told to have a spotlight and be showcased to the entertainment industry. And I think their applications are opening next week, so it would be silly for you not to look into it.
And as an alum of the Yes and Laughter Lab, I can totally
cool.
vouch for it and what an incredible experience it is and all the wonderful work that Kenice does. But again, like, look her up because her comedy is just excellent. I'm sure you can tell from her appearance here on Fake the Nation. Now, Xorje, where do they find you?
Yes, so on socials, it's Xorjeo, Xorjeo, because my parents wanted me to have the most ethnic, unsearchable name. And if you want to listen to our new podcast from KQED called Hyphenación, you just search for it wherever you stream your podcasts and on YouTube alongside Charlie Biting Fingers. But that's Nacion, Nacion at the end.
Oh my God. Okay, this is actually like a big wake-up call for me that I should like subscribe to you on YouTube, even though I will only listen to you on
yes, please.
We gotta get everyone to monetization numbers. Okay, guys, that's what we need to be doing for Hyphenación and for everybody out there that's trying to make it, because that's the other thing that YouTube did is like monetization, which we didn't even really get into, but there you go. Okay, and folks, you know where to find me all the things that they do. I just wanted to thank everyone who makes the show a possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Andrew McGuire. Thanks to everyone at HeadGum. Thanks to Gaby Ultra for our theme music. Thanks to that was my last thanks. So let me pivot to, if you have any questions or concerns, you can email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. And again, if you want to support the show, which I really hope that you do as we transition, it is patreon.com/Negin Farsad, where you can do that. And otherwise, we'll be back in your earballs next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.
let's move on. All right, this next topic, I'm just going to reintroduce you guys, and then we're going to save it for a vacation or for a bonus. Here we go. And next topic. Today, I'm joined by host of the wonderful KQED podcast, Hyphenación. It is the excellent Xorje Olivares. Hey, Jorge.
Hey.
And I'm also joined by the excellent comedian. You've seen her on The Tonight Show. She's one of the Timeouts comedians to watch. It is the excellent Kenice Mobley. Hey, Kenice.
Hi.
All right, so we came across a therapist letter in the New York Times that felt very relevant to our turbulent politics. I'm going to read the letter, and we're just going to cook up some advice for this person. Here we go. My husband and I are raising our wonderful 2-year-old son. Both of our families live far away. He isn't close with his family, while I have somewhat of a closer relationship with mine, particularly my dad and stepmom. However, they're Trump voters, and my husband doesn't want our son spending time with them because they endorse values that we don't share. We're liberal, and our occupations are currently being negatively impacted by the Trump administration changes, which has only heightened my husband's concerns. While I don't entirely disagree with his perspective, it's still important to me that our son has the opportunity to know his grandparents. I've made it clear to my husband that he's welcome to sit out visits if he prefers, but he remains uncomfortable with this arrangement. We've reached an impasse, and I'm not unsure how to move forward. I don't want to disregard his feelings, but I also want to honor my own. How should we handle this? So my question to the two of you is, how should they handle this?
I feel like as an adult, I'm starting to recognize the beauty of boundaries. And I wish that I knew this when I was younger, not necessarily with regards to just politics, but anything in general. When you come from a a Mexican American family, they're very much, at least my parents were very much helicopter parents, and always tried to control where I went, who I saw, who I spoke to, what I was exposed to. And I mean, that helps when you're trying to lay a foundation for who you're going to be as an adult. But I wish that I had known that I could make certain choices for myself to either do something or sit something out, say something, or just keep my mouth shut. And I think it's more so the encouragement. And I know we talked about public therapizing, but like the the encouragement for somebody to just know what they want, when they want it, and how they want to spend their precious time. Because I guess another thing as an adult is you realize how good it is to hold on to your time and how you want to spend your time and who you want to spend your time with. So just so long as somebody knows that they've made a choice to be, spend that time with people they actually want to be with, I think that's the best thing I can say.
Kenice?
So here is something, and I'm not married. I don't have any children. So I always feel a little bit ridiculous being like, this is what you need to do with this. But
You should handle your child this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the premise of this entire show is people who have no business making advice, giving advice.
I do think that this is very space-based. So like if you are taking the child to where they live, they get to make the rules in a certain way. They get to set up an environment that may be more likely to impact the child's thinking on this, that, or the third. I think if you can bring them to your space and they are operating within your rules, you can allow them to create that relationship with the 2-year-old while having it within your space, within your setup, your environment, your rules, so that they're not necessarily being like, hey, we're all eating at the Cracker Barrel and there are 18 Confederate flags around. I think that makes it a little bit easier for you to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing. Also, and this is something I do with my mom. She knows this, so it's not like she's going to hear this and feel bad. Set time period of hanging out. It's similar to the boundary thing, but you're just not here endlessly. You are here for 2 days. We have a set schedule. We're not going on these tangents, and so we can't get on each other's nerves, and I won't want to murder you. So to me, place, time, limits makes it so that it's possible.
I'm going to share what my partner tells his family. Like when we invite them over, he'll say, the restaurant closes at 7. And it's very clear that when 7 rolls around, folks better be grabbing their stuff and getting out the door. And as I mentioned, because I grew up with helicopter parents, I feel so badly to set those time limits. But watching it in action has really changed my life about like sometimes it's just 2 hours and I'll see you another time. And it works.
It's interesting because I feel okay. My Middle Eastern self, who grew up with immigrant parents, who don't like. I would say my parent. I would say their normal immigrant levels of like involved or whatever. Judgmental, all those things. Um, but I do feel like I feel strong, huge, sometimes overwhelming amounts of duty towards my family. And I don't know if that's what this woman is feeling. Like I have a duty to like make sure they have enough time with the grandchildren. I have a duty to like, make sure that like when they come to New York, they have X number of experience that they feel good about. They do that they do that. I'm always like trying to achieve like best daughter. You know what I mean? And so I like, and I also, I just feel like in terms of the continuum, there's so many things my parents gave up so that I could be this dumb fucking American who gets to do whatever. Right. And by the way, look at what I'm doing. I'm a fucking comedian with a podcast. Like, it's like they really made
Can
it
you not?
possible for me.
You're very successful.
You're
I'm
so
sorry.
good at this.
Yeah, like
You're
okay.
so
like,
fantastic at what you
time
do.
out.
No. But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying I
One
didn't
of
become
the
a
nation's
scientist.
best comedians with a set career,
Author.
awarded with things. Yeah, I'm just a flippery Jimmy comedian. No,
No, thank you. All right, thank you. And let's me take that in. But I just think like I didn't do the thing that would have been great, like for an immigrant parent. Like I didn't go be a doctor, I didn't go be a scientist, whatever. I didn't do those things. And I think like I feel like, oh my God, they gave up so much and they've been so cool with my career decisions. The least I can do is make this kid of my daughter available to them as much as I possibly can. And that's kind of like, is that, oh my God, Kenice is looking at me like you're nuts. But that's like, I feel like that's how I operate.
They gave you so much so you could make these choices. Protect yourself.
Right. It's interesting. I just like, I don't know. I feel still so strong. But okay, so now I'm lucky. My parents are like pretty liberal. So I don't have this issue, right? I'm not worried about how they're indoctrinating her. Like I'm mostly worried that they give her too much candy, which I feel like is across grandparentum, that's not. And so they're not like giving her MAGA hats. And so it's easier for me. But I think one thing I think is also like when you're raising a kid, you start to think, oh wow, you start to realize my kid's 6, so a little older than this kid. Oh my God, they're hearing so many fucking things on these streets, and I don't want her to learn those things. But what you then have to realize is, oh, I just need to give her enough of a foundation so that she knows these positions are right and these are wrong. These are ethical and these are not ethical. Well, like I believe in this kind of community service. I don't believe in fucking littering the streets, and she just needs to have a foundation of ethics to go forward and then have her own opinions. And I think if you're trying to hide opinions from her, it's just not going to help her form that solid foundation. She needs to hear opposing viewpoints so that she can then figure out, oh, I was taught a set of like ethics and I need to like figure out what my opinions are based on those. You know what I mean?
I think the thing that's resonating a lot with me, Negin, is this notion of the autonomy that we feel like the autonomy our parents taught us to have, we feel guilty for using because then it feels like
yes!
we're spitting in their face, which is like, no, they did everything they could so that way I can make these choices for myself and be like actualized human on my own accord. But it's tough. I feel it.
It's so tough, guys. I think that's exactly right. I mean, and it's not like my parents are lobbing insults at me all the time. You know what I mean? They're not. Like, they're basically, in the beginning, they were like, ugh, why with this comedy thing, And now they're like, okay, you know what I mean? They're like fine with it, in their way. But I think, yeah, I in general, I think if I'm advising this couple, I would say to the dude, to the husband, you got to believe more in what you're teaching your kid. You got to believe that it's strong enough to withstand all these attacks. You're growing a strong tree and it can withstand a hurricane. That's what you've got to, whatever that metaphor. Okay, something about a tree, and then the tree's
was
also a
good. I went with
hurricane.
it.